Shout out to you guys. We're live. We're live. We're live. Testing the mic. So today we got the clip here with Alex Jones and Errol Musk. I believe this guy lives in South Africa. He's the father of Elon Musk. And I felt it was a really good interview to have a discussion with you guys and just pick your brains, see what your opinions are about it. Of course, as usual, I'm always open to agreements, disagreements, polite, cordial discourse, of course. No name calling, if you don't mind. Apologies for the attire today, y'all. Like it's literally, it feels like it's over 30 degrees right now, but maybe it's not quite there because it's currently 11:40 p.m. Where I am, and it's about 26 degrees, but it feels very, very humid and just, yeah. So I didn't have anything else that was going to keep me cool for this stream. So bear with me here, guys. I'm not trying to show off or anything like that. But without further ado, I'm going to shut up and we're going to dive right into the stream here.
About to have here in less than 48 hours. So it's great to have Errol Musk with us today. We've got a lot of topics. We're going to get into the Middle East wars, what's happening in Ukraine, and so much more. I'm also going to bring up how he named Elon, and you got Werner von Braun's book that is Project Mars, and in it, the guy that colonizes Mars is named Elon. Was that on purpose, some true visionary, or who knows what it was? Because obviously Elon, richest man in the world, worth $1 trillion, and also very interesting and pro-free speech, is something I know that Errol has said he's proud of. But Errol, if you weren't Elon Musk's dad, we would still have you on because you're so interesting. You're taking on bands, people trying to kill you and your daughter and shooting them, and being the top shooter in the military in South Africa, and all that's happening in South Africa now is a microcosm of what's coming to the West. I mean, you've definitely done a lot of interesting things, and the emerald mines and everything else. That would be just a wild interview in and of itself. So we should talk about that some too. But thanks for being here with us.
A pleasure. It's a real pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Wow. So what is your view of the West? What is the West? Is it in crisis? Why is it in crisis? And what happens if the West was to fall? And if you agree with me that it is under total siege, who is attacking it? How do we save it? And I'd love to hear your analysis of that, sir.
Well, I'd say the West has been under siege for quite a long time. And in recent years, we have seen the people fighting back, and that is seen in the flesh with Donald Trump, and we see it in the flesh in various other parts of the world as well. And we're seeing it more and more in the last short few months behind us, where even in England, which was basically considered a hopeless basket case, where in the municipal elections they completely ignored the existing government and gave them something like 8% of their vote, and gave the rest of their vote.
All right, y'all. So I don't mean to interrupt the father of the world's richest trillionaire, but I just wanted to really explain from my perspective why I felt this was a very interesting interview. Because this guy here, he's not just anybody. Like, he's actually like so he's like, I think he's definitely someone that we want to hear from. He's qualified to speak about this, in my opinion. That's probably why he made it on the Alex Jones show. He is actually an engineer by trade. Before becoming a public figure in his own right, Errol actually worked as a mechanical engineering consultant. He also served in politics in the 1970s and early 1980s. And then he was actually elected to the Pretoria City Council in South Africa. And he's the first as an independent and later with the Progressive Federal Party in South Africa. And there's a scandal about him, if you want to call it that. It's about the Emerald story. And essentially, some say it's real, but it's more nuanced. Because Errol has said that he acquired rights to part of the outputs from Zambian emerald mines. And this has often been simplified online into Elon's father owned an emerald mine. But the details have been debated over the years. So just like some more details about him as we continue to dissect what it is that he's talking about in this interview with Alex Jones. But we'll keep the clip rolling here.
To the so-called, up and coming parties. So we're seeing things improve. We actually are seeing things improve. I'm quite happy to say that things are improving. They're improving. People are waking up. That's what it boils down to. The old do-gooder times where you just people they feel that they owe their country. They owe their country to some other country, or they owe their country to some people from some other country. That's gone. I mean, people are saying, no, wait, that's not true. The English people do not owe their country to some people in some faraway land. The Americans do not owe their country to somebody else. It's like somebody had a house, put a lot of work into it, and he owes his house to people, strangers who haven't done anything. No. You don't owe your house to anybody. It's your house. You built it. And people are waking up to that reality. And so I'm pleased to say that I've seen that happen with my own sons, where Elon and Kimmel have woken up to that reality. They didn't believe in that reality maybe 10 years ago. They do now.
I was about to say, I have, let's just say, done a deeper dive on you because I already knew who you were and followed some of it, but I went back and found interviews of you decades ago, newspaper clippings, just, probably one Saturday afternoon, spent like 3 hours kind of digitally stalking you in a friendly way. And I noticed statements you made decades ago that sounded just like your son today. And I guess he was more, liberal then. But as he said, the left moved so far left.
All right. So just before, I just wanted to talk about because he talked about his son, just to give some insights in there. So apparently he's actually had a strained relationship with his son, Elon, for years. Both men have publicly actually criticized each other in interviews, and they have largely been estranged. So just to note that as we keep the clip rolling here.
He now has basically, more and more, I think, embraced a lot of your worldview. But there you were decades ago warning of this. But I guess that's because you were in the middle of South Africa and had people literally try to kill you, and you had to kill people to defend yourself. And so you were kind of in the fire.
Well, yes. As a young man, I grew up very much opposing things like apartheid and wanting everybody to have the same fair chance. It took me time to, sort of learn a little bit more about the whole basic why things are the way they are. And I still believe in giving everybody a fair shake, and I don't like any kind of bad treatment of anybody. I think everybody should have the same chance, and so forth. And the old Democrat ideal, as Elon himself has said, in years gone by, Democrats sprouted certainly in the early 2000s. The Democrat story was a story of hope that we will make everyone happy and everyone will have everything, and no one should get a short straw and all that sort of thing. But as time went by, my sons Elon and Kimmel realized this is fake. This is not real. So what they talk, but they don't do, and so they changed. They completely changed. And as I say, the same thing is happening everywhere. In my country, where I live in South Africa, for example, this kind of thing that you showed now on the screen, that's history. That happened some time ago. I think it's some time ago. But the people are not accepting it anymore. They are saying no. And I was on CNN where they asked me, what do I think of the idea that, about 6 months ago, what do I think of the idea that America will be a majority black country by the year 2050? What do I think of that idea? I said, well, I don't think that's a great idea. I really don't think that's a great idea. And they said, what about the oppression of the blacks that the white people live in South Africa? I said, well, I never saw any oppression. We fed people. We had very good medical systems. We had very good schools. We had everything which I don't have today. We don't have it anymore. We have a broken country which is hanging by a thread right now. That's South Africa. So yeah, I think
Can you give
things
us
are
the
improving
conditions
in
there
Ethiopia.
now? Because I know we're showing tapes 5 years old of them saying kill the Boer, kill the white farmer. Only 30-something thousand of them farms left or whatever it is, or 25,000. And then from the numbers I've seen, the videos coming out of the reports, it seems to be far worse. Basic breakdown. So it's not like apartheid was good, but then it's replaced with communist system that's even worse. And then now I notice there's big uprisings by.
Yeah. So speaking of apartheid, just so that we're all on the same page here, like essentially it's a system of racial segregation and discrimination. It existed in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. And the word apartheid actually is derived from apartness in Afrikaans. I might have butchered that, but whatever. So, anyways, essentially, under apartheid, people were classified by race. So they had the white, they had the black, they had the colored, and they had Indians. So the black South Africans could not vote in national elections for most of the apartheid period. So you can imagine that, like in your own land, that's completely unacceptable. Also, people of different races often had to live in separate neighborhoods. Now, what is Errol's stance on apartheid? Like, it's not always been clear where he stays. Sometimes he opposes it, and sometimes he speaks favorably about it. But I wanted to just give that context as well as we continue to listen to it, just so that we're all on the same page. Because I myself, I don't know all these things, and I have to look them up in lifetime.
The different tribes demanding all the Indians and others leave. So there's a big push there by the Africans to get everybody else out. But at the end of the day, we already saw that, as you know, north of you in Rhodesia, and now how that all completely fell apart. So what do the Africans think is going to happen if they run out the last few 20-something thousand farms?
Well, what we have in South Africa is that vast numbers of people. The last estimate was 27 million. Now, South Africa's about the size of Texas. So we have 27 million illegal immigrants in the country. And these illegal immigrants coming from the north of South Africa are very desperate to take the work that's provided by the small white and Indian community. They're very desperate to get that work from the white and Indian community. And as a result, they pushed the South African blacks who need that work out of work. It's not rocket science. It's very basic. And now they've sort of woken up to that. And now the feeling is these people have to go. These people from the north have to go. And
Absolutely, and you can't really blame them. I think we have something similar as well in Nigeria. I don't like to point fingers at any group of people, but we have people that come in and then they cause a lot of problems. I'm sure some of you have heard about them. It's like the herdsmen, Boko Haram, causing all sorts of problems. So in South Africa right now, we have all sorts of issues like today, right? So Elon Musk, he believes that South Africa has declined because of poor governance. Crime is at an all-time high right now. Corruption, race-based policies, and supporters agree that these are major problems. Critics argue that Errol is exaggerating some of the issues, particularly his claims about anti-white persecution. So Errol seems to be like that they're actually against white folks now in South Africa, and people actually pushing back on him about that. So he does get a lot of pushback over there in South Africa. But tonight, I want to actually just hear and listen to his arguments and evaluations, and then we'll just meet them based on their merits. So let's not come to any preconceived notions. I just want to give it a good listen.
The same sort of thing exists in America with, people coming in from Mexico, taking jobs that Americans would take and so on. But this is very, very big in South Africa. So just about everywhere you go in South Africa, it's a factory, if it's a shop, if it's a restaurant, whatever it is, the people that will be helping you are Africans from the north of South Africa, not local people. And the result is, of course, the locals are, up in arms. The government has done absolutely nothing to prevent it. So it's a very bad situation that we have at the moment.
Advertisers. Expand your reach and elevate your campaign performance with untapped audiences.
So for those that don't know, you got some of the communists and others that want the white minority out, but a lot of the Africans that are South African, black Africans, want you to stay. The Indians, you're saying, have been, I've been there for a long time, very productive.
Something very interesting about that, right? Like when he says that a lot of the South Africans actually want the white folks to stay. It's interesting because I remember my mom told me about because Nigeria were under the British, they were our colonial masters, right? I won't put it in air quotes because but anyways, yeah. And essentially whenever we were fighting for independence back in 1960, apparently a lot of the African women, they were actually against it. So African women actually wanted the white people to remain. And you can look this up if you want. This is what my mom told me. That actually the Igbo women, especially, they were singing. There was literally a song about it. It's like, Ojia Chinanya Charo, meaning blacks don't rule us. We don't want it. So I wonder why it is. Like, could this be like hating on yourself, like self-hatred? Or like, could it be like an inferiority complex? Or could it actually be like a legitimate concern that perhaps like the black people leading, they're not necessarily the best leaders. They are usually looking out for themselves, usually more susceptible to corruption. Could it be? I'm not making any of these. I'm just wondering why it is that we saw that in Nigeria or is it Stockholm syndrome where you're like tied to the person that's holding you captive? But I just genuinely want to hear from you guys in the chat. Like, why is it that we have like these people, like especially in Africa, like when they tend to push back against getting independence from the Western people? So why is it that way? I'm not saying that the Western people are bad or good. I'm just asking the questions here. Put your comments and your opinions down in the chat, guys. I really enjoy reading them.
But that's the point that doesn't get made, that you've got all these other Africans trying to get into South Africa, 20 plus million of them, and you've got the indigenous blacks of South Africa that are really upset about that. You don't see that in our media, but if apartheid was so bad and the infrastructure it built that's almost gone, well, then why are all the blacks from outside South Africa trying to get in with the white devils?
Well, exactly. I mean, we in the past, the country was able to keep people out of South Africa because we had properly controlled borders. But now you can simply walk into the country. There's nobody. The borders are not manned, and so you can just walk into the country. There are no effective barriers to stop people from entering the country, and the result is absolute chaos. So the local black people are out of work in large numbers. So I mean, we're not talking about a little bit out of work. We're talking about the say 18 to 40 age group, about 65 to 70% unemployed. And
wow,
the older group over 40 that are experienced, they probably have a little bit of a better situation, about 40% unemployment. But for
so
the
how
younger group,
critical is it? Sounds to me like South Africa is already a failed state and is going to completely collapse into lawlessness soon. Is that an overstatement, or what's the trajectory and how could it be saved?
Well,
because my wife's not that old. My wife's not that old, and she had a traveling scholarship. She lived a year in Turkey and a year in South Africa, and that was like 20 years ago. She said it was unbelievably nice, safe. The blacks were nice, the whites were nice. It was one of the. She was in.
Honestly, Can you believe that all that time I was literally on mute and I was just talking to myself? But anyways, yeah, I was just saying that could it be that this could just be like a distraction? Because if you watch Netflix and you've ever seen the show Young, Rich, and African or Young, Rich, and Famous, and a lot of Netflix shows actually they are filmed in South Africa. South Africa looks fantastic, and yes, I know some people that actually live in South Africa as well, and they seem to be living really like really nicely. Although these guys are like really well off, like they're in venture capital and all that. So yeah, there's also that. So I don't know what the average person is living like in South Africa, but could it be that the media is blowing it out of proportion here, making it sound like it's way worse than it actually is? Because we know that these people, they love to feast on fear. They love to feast on like people just being afraid, uncertain of what's to come, right? Or is there some like truth in what we're hearing here? So any of you guys that have close ties to South Africa, feel free to let us know in the chat what exactly is going on in South Africa, and can you second what Errol is talking about here?
Durban. She was in a bunch of places. She went all over in a year. College there. She said it was. She said she loved it, and then she sees what it's like now in the news, and she asked me to ask you: is it really as bad as it looks?
Well, it's what I've been describing. The economy of the country has not grown. The growth, the black government has done little to encourage the growth in the country. They have a system called BEE, which is Black Economic Empowerment, which is designed to make sure that every white-owned business must give a third of their business to blacks that are nominated to own.
Oh, hold on. Have you guys ever heard about anything like that before? It sounds similar to DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusivity, or something like that. So if I'm hearing him right, he's saying that any white-owned businesses in South Africa, they need to hire at least a certain number of black people. Whereas here we have it that any business, I think it's whether it's black or white, they need to hire black people. So do you see what's going on here? So in Africa, which is like the land of apparently like, I think majority are black in Africa. I think we can all agree to that. So now in Africa, you need to hire black people. And then also in the West, where you have majority Caucasians, you also have to hire black people. So do you see where this has to be an issue here, where it's like, is that really fair? Can you really eat your cake and have it? Some might argue and say maybe this is repercussion for slavery and for colonialism, and some might argue that, but realistically, I don't know what that time was like. I don't think that anybody alive today, maybe I'm ignorant here, but is anybody alive here today that was part of that or that experienced that? Let's talk about it in the chat, really, because I don't think that we're gonna like live in the past, right? We need to move forward. So I don't think that is fair. I think that, like, in my opinion, it should be the best person for the job that should be getting it. It should be not anything to do with your race, the color of your skin. It should be based on what is inside of your head.
One third of your business.
So it's basically it's basically DEI.
Yes, and you can't. Most factories operate maybe on a 15% profit margin. So if you have to give away 30% of your income to people who have nothing whatsoever to do with your factory, nothing whatsoever to do with your shop or your operation, how on earth are you supposed to make a profit?
Well, here's an example.
It's a little bit different from DEI then in that case, because if you're saying they have nothing to do with your company, and he's making it sound like they are not actually contributing or being productive to the company. But I don't think that that's the case with DEI here. At least not what I think of. When I think of DEI here, I think that, like, most people, they're still competent and they're still getting the job done. But maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was a DEI hire. I wonder. Sometimes I wonder, like, was I a DEI hire? Did I really earn this job? Yeah, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer by trade. And it's possible that I might have been diversity hire as well. Because, yeah, if you ask about me, I've never really been like the most like intelligent or whatever, right? I'm just, going with the flow. Pretty average dude. Down to earth. Try to just, like do my best. But am I the probably like the smartest person out there? Probably not. Right? But so does that mean that I'm a DEI hire? Y'all let me know, like, was I a DEI hire? Now you got me thinking.
We operate about a 20% profit. We have to spend most of that on legal fighting the Democrats. But if I had DEI, I just had to randomly hire a third of people, and obviously most of the time they're just sitting around. We would shut down. I mean, for people that don't know businesses, good companies are making 20% a year. I mean, but the communists just say, nope, you're going to do this.
Yes, no, you've described it in a T. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so you're not making 30%, and you've got to give it away. So I've had farmers. A group of farmers came to my home when Trump came in, and Elon was helping Trump, and they came. I thought one or two would come. About 20 to 30 farmers came to my home, and they pleaded with me to ask my son to persuade Trump to force the South African ANC government to do away with BEE, because their words were, "It is killing us. It is killing our farms. We cannot operate anymore like this." And I said to them, "We'll try." I advised them to take advantage of the offer that Trump made to take farmers to America, South African farmers. But many of them, or most of them, or all of them, said, "We don't want to leave our country. We love South Africa. We've been here for donkey's years. We are many generations here. We just want an end to this this crazy theft of our."
You see, when I see a place like that doesn't look like anything that you see on Netflix. So it looks like they have some really, I mean, it's not that rough. Like, they have way rougher places than this in Lagos, Nigeria. It's not like as if it's a competition, but I think it's pretty safe to say that South Africa is probably like as good as it gets, right, in Africa. So if they're having these problems, then you can imagine how bad it is for, say, like Nigeria, for example, the giants of Africa. The so-called giants of Africa, of course, that is. Yeah, back in the day, they used to call us the giants of Africa, but I don't know. Not so much today, guys. Not so much today. Nigerians are hardened, and all of them are leaving the country because of bad leadership. They end up leaving the country, going to the US, going to Canada, going to UK, Australia. And the funny thing is that when these people, they immigrate, they end up doing fantastic. Now, is it because of DEI, or is it just because they're like super hardworking and they've already experienced such hardships that now we're just grateful to be here. We're just grateful to get paid a fair wage for our efforts. We're just grateful that the playing field is a little bit more fair, right? Where like your qualification seems to matter. And it's not all about who you know. I know that in the West, we still have connections and who you know, but at least you can get an entry level job. At least, even if it's like being a bartender, you can at least make a living. So I think, could that be why? I don't know. Like, y'all let me know down in the chat. Like, why is it that it seems that, especially Nigerians, I've noticed this with Nigerians, why is it that when they leave their country, which has like very corrupt leaders, that they tend to thrive in the new countries? Is it because of DEI, or is it because of merit? Let's talk about it in the chat, guys.
Of our production and our income and so forth, So it's chaotic. It's just getting worse all the time, So
well, when we watch liberal media here, and I know nobody about South Africa knows the basic players, but correct me where I'm wrong. They're like, look, the blacks are rioting as the evil white people, but then most of the time it's the outside blacks from outside South Africa fighting with them back and forth. And most of the time, it's just roving bands that'll rob black, white. They don't care.
Yes, opportunists.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of the killings that have taken place on the farms is not particularly political. It's just opportunism. In other words, there's no police force anymore. We used to have a very effective police force in South Africa. We don't have that anymore. We have a very, very, very weak police force. Just to mention, last month, the Minister of the Interior was caught bringing in $200 million worth of cocaine through one of our harbors.
Wow.
And earlier this year, the Minister of Police was caught bringing in $300 million of cocaine into the country. And, that's what we're living with. The previous chief of police was sentenced to 15 years for trafficking in drugs. That was the chief of the police. So that's what we've got in South Africa. It's actually almost comical. And, the situation is not going to get better until you have, if you return to the type of government that not to say apartheid government, but the government where you actually, they're not in governments to simply fleece the coffers of the government and take whatever money they can and escape.
You got to bring back the private property and the security and the incentive to build. And the communists know full well that would give people their own independent power, so they don't want it. But in the end, it always destroys the country. So their very philosophy gives them power for a few decades, but always destroys it in the end. How do you see South Africa? Do you think that South Africa can come out of this, or does it first have to totally collapse? And what would that timeline be?
Well, nothing really. Well, I don't know about totally collapse, but what we've got at the moment is that the government is providing a subsidy to 30 million. The total population is about 63 million, we think. And the government is providing a subsidy to 30 million people every month of approximately $150. Now, that might sound very small in American terms, but on $150 in Africa, and certainly in the countries north of us on much less than that, they can feed a family of 4 for a month. They don't have mortgages to pay. They live free on the land that's available. So they don't have anything to pay for. They simply buy food with that.
So while I agree with him that $150, what is that? I think probably 200,000 naira. I don't know what that is in South African currency, but I'm not so sure that with 200,000 naira that you're able to feed a family of I don't know if you said of 3. Is this family with 3 kids? Because nowadays in Nigeria, from what I've heard, haven't been since 2021, but from what I've heard, price of things have gone up, especially since this whole, you know what it is, right? Operation Epstein Fury, right? Especially since that, it's been going downhill very fast, right? But it is true that, because I know that in Nigeria, teachers, my mom was a teacher, and her salary, I don't want to discuss her business, but essentially teachers in Nigeria, their salary is literally 40,000 naira. And that was considered good. But this was back, to be fair, this was back in 2023. As of 2023, we had teachers getting paid 40,000 naira a month, which is literally not even up to $40, guys, a month. So it is true that people get paid very, very little. And that's what I was talking about getting paid a fair wage and why people would rather come here. You literally have doctors and bankers. I believe a doctor's salary in Nigeria is 250,000 naira. So a doctor literally is not even making up to $300 a month. So then you wonder why when you see people driving a cab and they're like, oh, you're a doctor back home. Well, yeah, it's possible. It's possible that a doctor back home would rather be a cab driver here. Because as a cab driver here, you get paid more. And then you're able to actually get compensated a fair wage. And I think that's something that people miss sometimes, is how good that we have it here in the West. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, guys. I'm glad to be here.
And it's enough money to buy food for, say, a family of 4 to survive. And that's what's keeping everything, you might say, going. And if that subsidy were to fall away, I have no idea what would happen. It would be absolute chaos. There's no way that subsidy can fall away because the result would be pandemonium.
And what would happen? What would happen if the communist element that has a lot of power is able to run out the 25,000, 30,000 white farms left that produce 90% of the food? Why are the communists trying to take that land when production always falls down to almost nothing? Why are they killing their golden goose?
Well, they're opportunists. They're not looking. They're not communists. They use these terms: communist, this or that, socialist, communist. They just opportunists looking at whatever label looks interesting and pretending that they have some solution. And of course, to the ordinary unschooled sort of, let's say, black person, maybe white person too, they offer, amazing solutions that they would be able to provide if they were able to run the country. But we know that's nonsense.
Well, that reminds me, what about the parallel of Mondami?
Rumble Cloud, your freedom, our promise. Break free from big tech's grip with a cloud service that champions your right to innovate. No.
Now, winning, maybe even running for president, being a kingmaker, all the candidates he supported, the American Democrat socialists, really communists, they're winning all the primaries and replacing all the old school Democrats that were bad enough. So the Democratic Party is metastasizing, getting more radical. Isn't that similar with your leftist parties, which is what happened in South Africa?
Yes, but let them do it. Let them do it. Because once they are put in behind the steering wheel, you will then see what they really are about. And the spirit in America, is the greatest in the world. I mean, people are the people of America are generally the kindest people you get in the world. So they would give these sort of people a chance in America, I suppose, democratic socialists, whatever they are, and see how they go. But there's no doubt whatsoever, Mamdani is going to fail hopelessly. He's going to fail hopelessly. There's no question about that. And they will pretend that they didn't fail or look for excuses or whatever it is, but he's going to fail. And he's already failing. None of the things that he said he's going to do are being done. And so let them do it. We had a joke back in the days when Elon and Kimball were at university in America, where somebody said there was some or other emergency or something, that like a hurricane or something, and nobody in the government came to work for 2 weeks, and then followed that up by saying nobody noticed that nobody came to work. So at the end of the day, a strong private sector and a very good banking system is the solution.
Let's quickly talk about Mamdani. So who is he? He's an American politician, and he's a member of the Democratic Party. He's affiliated with the Democratic Socialists of America. So he previously served in New York State Assembly and is now the mayor of New York City. Very cool. Where is he from? He was born in Kampala, Uganda, to Ugandan academic Mahmoud Mamdani and Indian filmmaker Mira Nair. He moved to New York as a child. Now, what does he believe in? He believes one of the more progressive politicians in the U.S., or rather, he's considered one of the more progressive politicians in the U.S. His platform has included higher taxes on wealthy individuals, more affordable housing. I don't see anything wrong with what he's saying here. Expanded public transit. Okay, what is wrong with that? That's good. Universal childcare. I think that is great. Jeez, it sounds almost Canadian. Greater government involvement in providing social services. So again, it looks like as if he wants the government to do more for the people, taking the rich people's money via taxes. So that is definitely not very American, right? Because America is known to be very capitalist. So he's looking like as if he needs to move to Europe or to Canada, where like you can be more socialist, is what it's sounding like. So I see why Errol is saying that he's going to fail, because with those policies in a place like the United States of America, especially now that they have a president like Donald Trump, who is like capitalist at the prime, he's like the boss of capitalism. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out that well for Mamdani. But y'all let me know down in the chat, what do you think about Mamdani? Do you think that he's I personally don't have any issues with his policies. I'm all for universal childcare. Like, I mean, children shouldn't have to be suffering when we have someone that like we have trillionaires and billionaires then now you're not going to treat a child because he doesn't have insurance. I just never understood that part. So I completely am with him on this particular one. Now, am I with him when it comes to like taxing the rich? It's not like as if I'm rich, so I probably won't be affected by these taxes. But I just feel like we already pay enough taxes, and that should really be enough. So in my own mind, I'm like, why don't we reduce spending? So even though it might not affect me taxing the rich because I'm not exactly rich, right? I still don't think that, because that is how we get to where we are right now, is when people do nothing because they're like, oh, it doesn't affect me right now. Yeah, it might not affect you right now, but then it might affect your children's children, right? And then they'll be wondering, like, who did this mess? Who allowed this to happen? Who agreed with this, right? That's how we find ourselves where we are right now, paying almost 50% of our income, however little it is, to Uncle Sammy, right? That is how we get to that point, is when we just keep quiet when we hear things like this, simply because it doesn't affect us today. In my mind, that is short-sighted thinking. We need to be holding our elected officials accountable to be making sure that they're actually using our tax money wisely and not just spending it lavishly. But like, I mean, like, you know, like, I don't know, like, is that rocket science? Like, it couldn't be that hard, could it? How did these people get into the office and then they can't just do that? They have to keep on taxing and taxing and taxing, right? I mean, at some point you're gonna need to like account for the money. Like, what are you doing with all the money, guys?
Everything. A very strong private sector and a good banking system.
And that reminds me of during COVID, 2 years of lockdown here, 3 years other places. No one noticed because most of the government workers never even went to work anyways. No one noticed.
Yes. You know, that I don't want to get into the COVID scam, but I've never had any injection. I mean, that was such a scam. It's a joke, but at any rate, it's over now. But coming back to the first thing you raised, I think we have reasons to be optimistic. We let these people like Mamdani and then try their luck and see what they do, and show the people what it means, and then you will see what happens. I spend a lot of time in Russia. I've done 5 major trips to Russia in the last 18 months, and Russia is very.
Yeah, they're about to go on break, but apparently this guy loves Russia and he loves Putin. And I wonder why. I really wonder why.
Space.
Hold on, I want to talk about what you saw in Russia. Errol Musk, a break. We'll talk about America's 250th birthday with this very interesting, intelligent man, Errol Musk. We'll be right back.
I put me spit.
Is the FBI acting like they're doing what Trump wants and getting election integrity, or are they really going to do it? Because, I mean, I want to believe in Cash Patel. I want to see some real action. We'll be getting to that with Kyle Seraphin in the next hour. But a fascinating individual, Errol Musk, is our guest. Everybody should be sure and follow him on X at Errol, ERROL _ Musk, MUSK on X. I follow his work very, very closely, and I got to say his politics, his worldview.
Honestly, he's a fine-looking man, right? Like, nice head of hair on him. I wonder if he got, like, if he went to Turkey for his hair, like Elon did. Is that his real hair? I wonder. You know, how you just get so rich, and then, like, it's like nobody can tell anymore. They just stop aging. He looks like a fine man. No homo. Pause, right? Pause.
I'm right there with him. And you know, you see a lot of obviously his worldview and the things that Elon does that I'm overall very supportive of as well. He's one of the only big tech guys that's defending the West and really got rid of Starmer and is fighting the tyranny in Europe and has the Brazilian tyranny coming after him.
Here we go again with Alex Jones again. He's the one that like literally spearheaded Trump getting elected, right? He spearheaded it, and now he's acting like he's part of the people, like a civilian. But no, Alex, you were literally with the one with the bullhorn shouting for Trump, and now he's in, and now you're jumping ship because he's now making a mess. He pooped the bed in Iran. Now you're jumping ship, and now you're going to Elon. I mean, you've always liked Elon. I understand that, but this Elon is the same one with the Neuralink, which is supposed to be going inside of people's bodies. So I mean, like, it sounds good on paper, right? It's like, yeah, your body can become like a Tesla. Diagnostics, like you get messages like, oh, looks like your heart might need some servicing soon, right? But then what can go wrong? Just what can go wrong is what I want to know with something like this. So I will be very, very cautious with trusting Elon Musk because, yeah, he has good ideas. Great, great, great guy, great mind, lovely mind. I drive a Tesla. I love the Tesla, actually. Right? Like even Starlink, he gives you internet in remote places. Love it. He's literally making the world a better place. Right? But now, what can go wrong with something like Neuralink? What can go wrong with something like a Tesla that is pretty much a computer that has all your information and just has all your driving habits and everything and cameras everywhere? What can go wrong with something like that? With a car that potentially has like allegedly allegedly a lot of these cars now have kill switches where they can just stop your car from moving. So what can go wrong if this is just a car, right? And you can already see that with a car, they already really get to know you very well. Now, what can go wrong if they're putting something inside of your body? Right? Right? I'm just messing around, yo.
You judge a tree by its fruits, and I just see real life action and defense of the First Amendment. And then people see that and say, well, it's not good enough. We don't trust him. He's rich and powerful. Well, if we're going to take back society for the West and relaunch a new renaissance, we've got to be ready to have champions that are powerful that join us and not just sit here like a bunch of losers. Trump's gone sideways some, but he's still light years better than the Democrats. And I'm proud of the old Trump we supported, and he's had some problems now. Now he's correcting, in my view, not letting Israel completely run his foreign policy. I'll get that.
What does he mean by the old Trump? Like, I don't know that there's an old Trump and a new Trump. I think maybe if he's talking about the Trump who just gamed all of them and fooled them into electing him in and really pushing for him, then yeah, sure. But I mean, I think anybody that was watching it would have known that Trump is very good friends with Bibi, right? So I even told my brother this because he was like, oh, I can't wait. I really want Trump to win because he lives in Belgium. So his thinking was that Trump is going to stop the war in Europe there between Ukraine and Russia. And then they get some relief. And he wasn't really bothered about Israel. Right. And I told him, I'm like, but then I think, yeah, he might be able to stop the war in Ukraine. But then what about Israel? You know that he's probably going to, because he's already been talking about like destroying Iran and everything like that, right? So I said, what about the Middle East? If Trump wins, he's probably going to rain havoc on the Middle East. This was what, and I think most people knew this too. It was no secret that Trump literally loves him some Bibi, right? So what was he expecting? Like, what were these people expecting? So now he's saying, well, Trump has gone sideways, the new Trump and the old Trump. No. There's nothing like that. This is the same guy. He's been the same way since. And he just gamed all of you guys to get into the office. And now he's in there. And actually, he's already called you out. He's even completely lambasted Alex Jones, lambasted Candace Owens, lambasted Megyn Kelly, and all the top voices that were actually advocating for him. He's lambasted all of them now that he has the power. What are they going to do about it? If they step out of line, he just put them back in line. And they know it. We know it.
Errol Musk take on that. But I wanted to just briefly, we talk about America's 25th anniversary, and do agree it's central to the West. Obviously, Tucker's seen it. I've never been to Russia. Everybody I know that goes there just say, the innovation, the architecture, the buildings, the people, it is certainly a renaissance of the West is happening there. I want to see it happen here. I don't see Russians coming here in the 80s and being blown away and that helping make the Soviet Union fall of all the freedom and choices we had. Now we go there and see that it's not the old Soviet Union. I see them doing well as us doing well. And I think everybody's wealth, a rising tide raises all ships. But just finishing up with South Africa, movies like District 9, and movies like Elysium, so many movies going back to I like Mel Gibson, but they made that Lethal Gun, whatever, were the evil South Africans. And then none of that, from what I saw as an outsider from studying history and talking to South Africans, black and white, comports to the real reality. But stuff like District 9, where it just shows whites as these total devils, from what I know, most of the blacks appreciate whites and know it's good. It's only the roving bands, the 20-something million from outside the country. And so this image of South Africans, whites as being devils, is really a false one that the left has created. And I would ask you if that's true or not true in your view. And
what's he talking about, like, that the left has created? So this is where Alex Jones loses me, right? Because I rock with Alex Jones, but when he starts talking about the left and the right, then I just can't take him seriously anymore. Because who right now in their right mind is still subscribed to the left or the right narrative? And I know that Alex Jones is very clever, very smart guy. So I think he knows this too. So why does he do this? Why does he continue to act like this is a left thing and this is a right thing? Why does he pretend like as if we don't all know now that these are all the same people? Why? Why does he do this?
Why the left still picks on white South Africans?
Well, it's a talking point. It's a platform for them. But the black community, the black numbers in 1910, when South Africa became a union of South Africa, the total black population was 800,000. 100 years later, it was 58 million. Now, in 1910, that means extreme growth of the population of black people. And in 1910, the Indian and white community was 400,000. And that in 2010 was only 4 million. So you get an idea that the black community was very well nurtured during this period of 100 years, and that they were able to grow in vast numbers. Living in that period of time, I know, and I was a city councillor of Pretoria for a long time, that we had the very best hospitals were available for the blacks.
Or I mean, I completely understand that, like, yeah, you had the infrastructure, you had the hospitals, or could it just be that the blacks were just having a lot more sex as well with their wives? Because, I mean, I'm guilty. Like, I got 4 kids, guys. And my parents had 5 kids. So, yeah, like, we are known, especially in Africa, we are known to have a lot of kids. And actually, not the best infrastructure. So I think, yeah, people just have kids because they be having sex a lot, even though they shouldn't be having that many kids. Like, some people really shouldn't be having that many kids. They don't have the resources to actually take care of them properly, but they still do it anyways. It's part of the problem that we have, actually, if you ask me, is people having kids that they cannot actually afford. Then those kids end up running the streets and becoming the criminals because they have to eat. Right? Because everybody's got to eat. So if they're like, we've been neglected all our lives and we have to fend for ourselves, they're going to do what they have to do. And that's just how we end up with even higher crime rates in addition to our politicians already robbing us blind. Now we have citizens with nothing to lose, no proper upbringing, no loving, caring, nurturing environments, just too many kids in the house. So you can love all of them, right? Because you're just people. You can't do all that by yourself. And so some people are going to fall through the cracks. And now you end up with a society in dismay.
The very best schools, I was involved in about 54 schools as a Rotarian. We used to help them with their needs and so forth. The actual, and the truth of the matter is quite different to what people like to pretend is the truth. There were certainly no evil evil white men going around causing problems. What we did have at the time was an effective police force, which is made up of blacks and whites, and we had very little crime. The children could play in the streets, they could go bicycle to school, and so forth, things that we can't do anymore in this country.
Yeah, if you really want to put this...
yeah.
I'm sorry, Errol. If you really want to put this to bed, right, just look at someone like Barack Obama, for example, and look at all the black elite people, right? So that's how you know that it's not about race. It's really about class. That's what it's about.
It's a lot of twisting of the facts going on here, and yeah, I think people are seeing through it everywhere now. They even in South Africa, people are the blacks. Some of the blacks themselves, many of them say we had a better life under the apartheid time. I don't like to agree with that because I don't like them to. I don't want to go back to that apartheid time. I would prefer we give everybody the best chance we can. But
Like those people that always say, "Oh well, I wish we could go back to the times when women couldn't vote." Right? That is such BS. So like, are they trying to say that it was better when the blacks couldn't vote? Why? Because the blacks can't really vote for the right people. Now, how true is that? Because somehow we end up with bad leaders. So is it our fault? Are we the ones voting for these leaders, or are they just being forced upon us? I think that's an interesting conversation to have because right now, the current president in Nigeria, nobody is happy with him. Nobody seems to have voted for him. At least that's what the online consensus seems to be. But yet he won somehow. During the presidential debates, he was busy in the UK shaking hands with the king. That's what he was doing. That was his campaign, was shaking hands with the king. So I wonder, was he just forced on the Nigerian people? Or is it actually them that voted? So I guess what I'm saying here is there really much changes here? Or is it now more covert? Oh, and by the way, just to add, I don't even think that this is just only isolated to just Africa. I think it could be asked as well in places such as the West, right? Like, are the elections really real? Like, are people actually getting voted based on like what people actually voted for, or are they just, or do they already have the person that is going to win the election? I really don't know, and I'm not saying it's either this or that. I'm just putting all the questions out there, guys. So correct me in the chat if you think I'm going off key here. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know, right? Like it's just a conversation, just something to stir a debate. So, let's talk about it really. Do you think that this is just unique to the third world, the African countries? Or do you think that here is also the same thing? Or do you actually think that you have complete control of who you're electing here? But don't get me wrong here, like it runs a lot better. A lot better. It's a lot better oiled machine here than what we have in the third world, than in a place like Nigeria, for example. Absolutely no comparison. I mean, just the fact that you have power 24/7, that right there is already that's game over, right? You can't compare with that. You can't compete with that power 24/7. What?
but I would not want to go back to that time.
Absolutely. If you
This
point
is
out
just
it's
a
way
lie.
worse now under basically leftist communist rule, it doesn't mean apartheid's good. It's just that communism's infinitely worse, and that at least there was infrastructure for people, and now they're a slave of communism, much worse than they were under that. And we see the same story happening here. Now, looking at America, because you're quite, have the background, and I've read about Elon's background with Dutch, and then also Dutch, here in the United States. And, also famous other scientists. And actually, I've read one of the inventors of the theory of technocracy, which is a little different than the current.
Rumble Studio is a game changer for our show.
Rumble Studio lets us stream to Rumble and all the other platforms while consolidating the viewers into Rumble for premium access during the live
Deployment of technocracy, but it still means, basically centralized under technocrats. It's interesting. What is your family background? And then I've read some of it is in America, or maybe that's Elon's mom, your former wife. But I find that interesting. What are your ties or her ties to America? And then your view of America and American exceptionalism, and can that be brought back? Is it being brought back? In 250 years, the left's trying to demoralize it, act like the problems are all the Bill of Rights, Constitution, the American system. The American system became the apple of the world's eye, and the most inventions and developments And then now we've gotten away from it, and that's the problem. But the media is selling the idea that it's time to get rid of the Bill of Rights, Constitution, that America's bad, get rid of the American flag. There's clearly that agenda to replace it with the WFUN leftist model. So what is your overall cosmology and connection to America, and what's your view on it? And also Russia, because I know you were in South Africa. You've been flying for 70-something hours. You were telling me, now you're in Eastern Europe and Prague. Just overall, where is the new Renaissance? What is the West? What is America? I know that's a mouthful.
Look, America is still exceptional. There's no question about that. America has a long way to go before it becomes not exceptional.
Yeah, so anybody that thinks America is no longer exceptional, all they need to do is just to swap with someone, right? I'm sure they will have someone that will happily swap with them. So you can go to a third world country and then exchange your place with someone in a third world country. Let them come to America in your place. And then let's see how you feel about that. I think that will put that to bed real quick. What do you think?
Whatever the word that you use, exceeds itself. America is still a wonderful country that exceeds itself in everything. So I don't think we have to be completely worried there. I think, as I said earlier, that these crazies that we've given a chance to express themselves like it's being done now with the Democratic Socialists, they've been exposed. Everybody's aware of the fact that they're a bunch of losers who are pretending that they know what they're doing, and so
con men.
I don't worry about them. Yes, con men and anarchists, and if taking the approach, if I can't do well, then I'll make sure that everybody else can't do well either. Those kind of people. And I don't think you need to worry about it. I think America is coming out of it. And of course, the election of Donald Trump was a very big sign of that. And, as far as the other countries you mentioned, South Africa's...
Did he just say that Donald Trump being elected is a big sign of America being on its way to recovery? I don't know how I agree with that. I get that his son worked closely with Donald Trump with the Doge and all that, but I really question that, right? Donald Trump, the guy that has started the war in the Strait of Hormuz, right, with Iran, the guy that claimed that he was going to stop the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, but he never stopped it. The guy that went to Venezuela and snatched up Nicolas Maduro, that guy. How is that helping America recover? He's made the guy that is threatening Canada, Greenland, threatening Canada with the 51st state, the guy that is tariffing everybody, all of America's allies. And that is somehow the right path. Maybe, because actually he's probably making some revenue for America. So I guess that right there was America first, right? But what about the wars? Is that America first? I don't think so. Unless you can explain to me how the war in Iran is actually favors America, then I'll listen. I'll be all ears.
Got a bigger problem than America at the moment. But if you go back over to Russia, for example, you made a mention about Russia. They are experiencing a renaissance. Russia is capitalism on steroids. They don't want any socialism. They have no interest in socialism whatsoever. And they are very energetic, the most energetic crowd of people and good-looking people that I've ever come across or seen in my entire life. The country is spotlessly clean. The facilities are way over what any comparable size cities. I went to maybe 8 or cities of Russia by now. They are so much better than any comparable American city. Moscow is by far the most beautiful capital city in the world, not by a small margin, by a large margin. And, it's sad because I remember as a young boy, I would go to Washington, D.C., and immediately it occurred to me they tried to make Washington, D.C. look like ancient Rome. And they succeeded in many ways. But in recent times, Washington, D.C. has been overrun by crimes and what they've now done to the reflecting pool and they pull down the statues. But it will all go away because the grass roots of America are very strong, very, very strong. And I see that with my...
Is he looking at here? Is this Russia or is this America? curious. If I were to guess, I would say America. Actually, no, I'll say Russia. Russia. What do you guys think? Where do you think these people are? Let me know down in the chat. Where do you think these people are? Russia, America?
I've got a lot of family there. I've got a lot of friends there, and I see that. So I'm not worried. I'm not too worried about it. I think I would have been worried a few years ago when Biden was in the president, or whatever the hell he was, frontman or whatever he was. I was really wondering what on earth is going to happen.
Well, no one can argue that it's not one big part of the American Renaissance has been Trump, but Elon, I mean, he's made the U.S. his main base, and the amount of jobs right here in Austin, I mean, I got to say, half the jobs he's got businesses and operations and warehouses and companies, North Austin, South Austin, East Austin, it's everywhere. It's wild.
Yes, and Elon is the kind of person who puts everything back. So he's your ideal partner. He's your ideal business partner because he puts everything back. He doesn't take anything. He lives on he treats himself worse than the person he treats the worst in the world is himself. He's very hard on himself and denies himself everything, and if he can do without something, he'll do without it. So you don't get people very often like that. So he's he wants to make it bigger and bigger and get better and better. And I think it's wonderful, really, and I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, I'm proud of
I'll be proud of my son too, right? I'm proud of my son regardless of money. Like, it's not about money, but honestly, just the impact that Elon has had on the world, right? The jobs he has created, the technological advancements that he has brought about what is that, like, politics aside and conspiracy theories aside. Like, what is there not to be proud about with Elon? Like, he is a stellar scientist, right? People will say he's not really a scientist. He just pays people to do it and all that stuff, right? And maybe that's true. But you know what? His name is on those things. So that's it. That's who history is going to remember. I think a lot of people talked about Tesla as well, Nikola Tesla. And apparently he didn't make his own things either. But you know what? Who do people remember today? I mean, maybe if you're part of the niche scientific group, then you would know the real people or whatever. But the general populace, we're going to just remember like the one that was public. And the one that we know the face of these companies is Elon. So unfortunately, like that's just how it is. Even at your job, right? Like, usually whenever they're giving credits, it's usually like the upper management and like the executives, right? The C-suits, they're the ones that get the credits. And then those of us, like the individual contributors, we just get a pat and hopefully like a pay raise.
I mean, he's so far ahead of all the other space programs in the world. You look at the numbers, all other space programs in the world don't add up to what he's doing.
Oh, yes. Totally. And
Bezos has spent hundreds of billions, and he can't even get one medium heavy lifter into orbit. It blows up. And then he would celebrate when Elon's would have problems, even though he had a lower failure rate than anybody else in history. And then Bezos would celebrate failures, and then he can't ever have any success. I'm not trying to put Bezos down, but he is something else.
No, you've got to give them a break. Give them any help they wanted. Elon offered Bezos all the help he needed. The approach from Elon's side was anything we can do, anything we can help with, just let us know. And
I notice Elon doesn't patent any of the space technology and lets everyone use it. Nobody does that.
I know on Tesla he doesn't patent.
Well, I saw him talking about his engines. He says, I don't patent my engines. And it's like
I would imagine he doesn't. So because they change so quickly that anybody who copied something that he did, by the time they copied it, would be old. It would be old-fashioned.
That's what he said.
So I think, so I wouldn't worry about that. So, and half the time people don't worry about patents and they just copy you anyway. So, I wouldn't worry about that. But what I do know is that with Bezos and another rocket startup, Elon has offered them any help they need. So, if they want any kind of help, he'll get it. They'll get it free from Elon, which I think is rather nice.
Yeah, Bezos ran his mouth for a long time. He's finally been being nice about it.
That is rather nice. That is definitely that is the prime scientist right there, right? Because he doesn't want to let paperwork and politics and legalities come in the way of science, right? So he's there, he's keeping it open so everybody can come in and innovate. And I have to applaud him for that, quite frankly, if it's true. I don't know if this is true or not. Just going off of what you're saying, that is quite admirable, and it shows his dedication to the art or to the craft.
So, looking at Trump, and I haven't followed your views on this, I listened to the Pentagon. They said 92% the middle don't fall, 100% they close the strait. It messes up your recovery, inflation. Trump still did it. And then I'm not a big enemy. I'm not an enemy of Israel. At the same time, I don't want Netanyahu running our policy. Now Netanyahu's people are calling Trump a backstabber because he wants the war to end. What is your view on all of that and the Middle East, and then tying into the Ukraine war that's so dangerous?
Well, Israel is the only, in my experience traveling in the Middle East, well, Israel was for a long time the only really safe, modern, I don't like to use the word civilized, but sort of civilized place in the Middle East. When I would go to Egypt, for example, I was not allowed to go into I wrote a book on Egypt, and I wasn't allowed to go into the streets alone. I'd have minders and all that sort of stuff. And the beauty of Israel was that it was much like being in America. It was much like being in Austin or something like that, a civilized place. And it's still a lot like that. And Israel has a lot at stake. They are being threatened by these Islamic fundamentalists with annihilation. If somebody threatens me with annihilation, I would take it seriously. I wouldn't.
Oh, no doubt.
I wouldn't. I would take it seriously, and if they then do the things that Iran has been doing, I would take it seriously. So I hope it doesn't hurt people's feelings, but I'm totally on Israel's side. Totally. At the same time, I have a great deal of respect for the Arab countries that I do go to, Saudi. UAE.
Very interesting. So I didn't see that coming, that he's on the side of Israel. He's on the side of Israel, then on the side of Russia. So I don't know, how does that work? Anyways, let's not get into that. Let's just keep it rolling here. Let's keep it rolling.
The finest people you can get.
They really are. The UAE really is reforming, and not just in rhetoric. They are 100.
Rumble Wallet just changed the creator economy.
Kind of a game changer.
It's big news.
Tip your favorite creators in crypto.
They can get it right now.
Thank you, guys.
100% stamping out radical Islam and really want to be our partners.
Yes. Yes, and they are proper, the UAE people, and not only them, but a few of the other countries, like Qatar and so on, they are very decent, proper, kind people. They don't have hang-ups.
And Saudi Arabia for 20 years has been warning us, so is UAE, stop taking the worst people. Most of them have convictions, and then Germany and people won't extradite them back. They're telling us, don't judge us by these people. Yes. What do you make of the Islamic hordes we've got that are marching and killing and announcing they're taking us over? Where do you see that going?
Well, we've allowed it. We've allowed that kind of thing to happen. It was never allowed before. But now, the movement to sort of give everybody a chance to have their say has allowed, the worst elements to get away with things that they wouldn't have been able to get away with in times gone by. And we are moving back to putting an end to this kind of behavior. And I see a positive future. I wish the bombing of Iran could stop. I wish these people. I have Iranians who plead with me to help us get rid of the monsters in our country. They call them the monsters, these mullahs. And I would just like them to step down and have normal.
Sure. Well, I want to quantify my position on this. Israel has been the underdog surrounded and attacked before, and I believe in Israel's existence. I'm not anti-Israel. My issue is when the Pentagon says Iran is 4,500 times.
I'm sorry, guys. I know that you guys want to hear this more than you want to hear me, but really, Like, how can you say that Israel are the underdogs when Israel literally has the world's most powerful military on their side? Like that just doesn't make sense. Like Israel literally has the United States of America by their side by side. So you cannot say that they're the underdogs at all. Israel are freaking strong. Like, just look at what they're capable of. Like, look at the way they completely annihilated 40 of Iran's leaders, like, in one day, kind of thing. Like, really? And you're going to call them underdogs? Stop it.
Is bigger than Gaza. It's more dug in. They won't fall because they're not vertically integrated. They're parallel, and that it's going to be a disaster. Israel knew that. My problem is that Netanyahu's been convicted. He needs a crisis to stay in power, and in the end, this is hurting Israel. The way this is playing out, it's like if I could hit a button and send the mullahs to the Phantom Zone, I'd do it. My concern is that this is worse than Vietnam, and we could get completely sucked into that. That's where I have a concern. And then when I say, hey, I don't want Israel controlling our foreign policy, the Israel lobby comes out, and attacks me, and I'm really concerned about just the overall plan in general. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think Israel is determining Trump's policy. I think the policy that's being followed has always been America's approach towards Israel, and that they will help Israel in any way they can. Israel is a bastion of civilization in that area.
So then why is it that whenever like Trump does like a fake peace deal, then Israel immediately goes and then attacks to try and sabotage the peace deal? Right. I hear what he's saying though, because America, as powerful as they are, I find it hard to believe that they would succumb to the will of Israel. So could it just be that Israel is like a proxy for America as a way to have America kind of exert their dominance in that region? Could it be? I'm just wondering. That's all.
They are the foundation nation of the Judeo-Christian world.
So now that we're in this crisis, 125 days though, and the mullahs think they have the cards, which could induce us to go in fully. Which is, I'm just saying, I get a lot of
guys. If you don't know what he's talking about with the mullahs thinking they have the cards, apparently there's some reports. I don't know how true that is. That Iran, they're saying that they have already nukes. So I don't know how true that is, but that is what he's talking about when he says that they feel like they have the cards. And if that is the case, that they have nukes, then yeah, I'll say that they have maybe not the cards, but they have some cards, some really good cards.
your points. They're fair from the perspective. My concern is that this is killing the world economy, causing inflation. How do we get out of it now? You're a smart guy. I'm asking you, what do you think the U.S. and Israel and others should do?
I think the problem is Iran and whether they will at some point put an end to their resistance where they are taking it out on their own people. And the next few weeks should
say whether Iran will put an end to the resistance. So he's just saying essentially, stop resisting. Is that what I'm hearing him say? Stop resisting? I mean, if the Americans stop resisting the British, then America will not be there today. Right? You cannot succumb to bullies. I'm not saying that Iran are getting bullied. For all we know, Iran might be the big bad bully on the block. But I'm just saying that, yeah. Like the way he said it kind of sounds a little bit like he expects them to just roll over. But, this is a nation. It's a proud nation of hundreds of millions of people. So I don't think that you expect them to just roll over.
See where that's going. Trump, as you obviously realize, is faced with the possibility of, in order to put an end to the Iranian tyranny that you have there, the absolute gross tyranny that these people have been doing, is to put boots on the ground. And putting boots on the ground is a very serious step, and so they're trying to avoid that. And so every day we hear new answers. They're making it harder and harder for the Republican Guard and the mullahs. I can tell you that I know this might sound a bit way out, but it's true. about 18 months ago, I was approached by people representing the Republican Guard, some of the Republican Guard generals, and they wanted to be given amnesty. And it was just after Trump was elected, and they wanted to be given amnesty, and they wanted to know whether my son and Trump would agree to them handing over many millions or billions of dollars in cash that they had in exchange for amnesty. So that was a year and a half ago. I passed the information on to the Trump administration, my son, and I'm not sure what came of it. But clearly, there are a lot of people there who would like to be out of this. Not only us, but people in Iran would like to be out of this misery and get back to normal.
Oh, absolutely. If I could wave a magic wand, I'd do it. Speaking of Elon.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's no getting back to normal here, right? Because people are saying, well, let's just stop this and get back to normal. The Iranians saying that, what is the alternative here? Is that Iran rolls over and then kisses the ring of America and Israel? How is that going to end for Iran? Do they think that that's going to be like a better Iran? I don't know. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Right? Maybe it will be. But then what about the other people that want to keep it going? People that want to keep it going. What is like, to what end? Right? So I think either way you look at it, it's never going back to normal again. Like this whole scenario in the Middle East, I don't think we're going to see it as normal anymore.
First 6 months of the administration were incredible. Doge was the most popular thing Trump was doing other than border control. And then Elon, left and there was those problems. I'm glad to see at Charlie Kirk's funeral they got back together and now they've been working together again. You back at the time, cautioned everybody not to fight too much. Are you pleased that Elon and Trump are getting along again?
No. But I just wanted to say the funny thing that was told to me when these Republican Guard Iranian generals wanted to flee the country and hand over this cash that they had, they said that they want their children to go to Harvard and they want to live in Virginia, which I thought was rather funny. They added to that, it would also be nice if they had access to an airplane, or I imagine.
Virginia, from what I've heard, is a beautiful place, right? Isn't that where you have like that song, West Virginia, country city? Pardon me, guys, I'm going to slay this song, but I love this song. Blue Hill Mountain, going straight from Africa, country home. Take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, country mama, country home. Take me home. Anyways, you guys, this stream has been going on now for about an hour and 23 minutes, and your boy is gonna go catch some sleep. I gotta travel to the Great Wolf Lodge tomorrow, so actually I'm gonna be getting like only 57 minutes of sleep before I hit the road, so I really do have to run. But I thank you guys so much for joining me today. As you can see, my camera has officially died. Piece of junk. But if you guys enjoyed the stream, consider liking it, like the video. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. We're making a push for 1,000 subscribers. Your support will mean the world to me. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.